Warning, this content is for entertainment and educational purposes only. All right, next question here is from Westside Aaron. Westside says, do squats and deadlifts actually widen the waist? If so, what exercises are best for keeping a tight midsection? How do professional bodybuilders adjust their diet to maintain a small waist? So we have a lot of questions here about small waist. A lot of times it's just genetic, dude. I mean, I have really small hips. I have a very tiny waist. I can be fat and wear 34. Some of it's just the gift that God gave me. And there's some dudes that are built like fucking tree stumps. And now it's a question of whether or not the squats and the deadlifts made their waist wide, or were they wide and found out that they were better at squatting and deadlift. The problem with the structure, the body structure that's great for bodybuilding, and the ones that are great for powerlifting, they usually don't align. Usually dudes that are really good powerlifters make shitty bodybuilders because you have to have a certain robustness to your structure. You have to be built like a fucking Neanderthal. Not trying to disrespect guys, but you know what I'm saying, man. You got to be built like a fucking tank to be a strong man or a a power lifter. It's really the hand of cards that the gods dealt you in playing that. Somebody like me, I remember I wanted to do some powerlifting when I was younger. I think I did one powerlifting meet, I remember. I did okay for my size. But my structure is not really made for powerlifting. I just do not have the joint connective tissue, the bone structure to be dense enough to have that sort of power. My hips are too narrow. I have a weirdly long torso and long limbs and stuff that just are maybe deadlifting I could have been good at because I do have the long arms. It seems like a lot of taller guys with long arms tend to make good deadlifters. I was a decent bench presser, shitty squats. My body's just not made for squats. So some of that is just genetics, man. Now, do heavy deadlifts and heavy squats widen your waist? To a certain degree, yes, because you're going to need, your obliques, your abs, your rectus abdominis, your transverse abdominis, all of these things are muscles, and under heavy load are going to grow. Now, I think guys fear that a little too much. The pressure that you build up in your abdomen from doing these, a lot of these guys are doing bracing and things like that, building up in your abdomen from doing these heavy compound lifts. You'll see it if guys that lift super heavy and do those heavy compound movements, they end up getting diastasis, which is where the abdominal wall starts to pull apart and stretches out, and they end up with that belly that looks like a lady that had a baby. They have that baby belly, and you can see it on older bodybuilders that did heavy compound movements. They all end up with diastasis. A lot of them. The guys that lift lighter and do more volume, Dexter Jackson comes to mind. Guys like that, Kamal maybe. Some of these guys have been able to maintain their waist and keep from blowing their waist out, but there is a bit of that. Combine that with all that bracing, with all the food in your abdomen. It's the heavy compound movements, genetics. These are all factors in blowing that waist out. A lot of guys that are bigger, are hammering a lot of red meat, things that are slow to digest, things that have lowered gastric emptying. That's another thing we got to think about, is like how fast the food moves from your food volume. Things like that could potentially, inflammation, gut inflammation, that could potentially blow things out. I also think belts sometimes make things worse because you see, and this is just my theory, I don't know, you see a lot of guys, especially bodybuilders, use those belts that are narrow on the front and they cinch them down really tight. And so think about taking a balloon and squeezing it in the middle. All that pressure's got to go somewhere. And when you see it, dudes that end up blowing their waist out, the diastasis starts from the top and it's pulling apart at the top of their abdomen. That's where they get blown out, is that up top, at the top part of their abdomen. And I think wearing belts super tight combined with all of that bracing and pressure in your abdomen, that pressure has to go somewhere, and it's all concentrated into that upper abdomen. And I think that's why you see a lot of guys end up with diastasis and they're blown out up top. I have absolutely zero science to back that up. This is all just bro fucking talk, but it's a theory. It's my theory. It might be wrong. You might completely disagree with it. But I don't wear a belt. I know a lot of bodybuilders don't wear a belt. I don't do any heavy compound movements. I did when I was younger. But I don't know. I wouldn't live in fear of them either. But you also have to consider, if you're bodybuilding, why do you need to be fucking deadlifting and squatting anyway? Are they even great exercises for bodybuilders? There's so many good exercises now. There's so many machines that do the things that we need to do. As I mentioned in the previous question about picking exercises that maximize mechanical tension, lower risk, and lower central nervous system fatigue, all of these things that go into exercise choice that we don't, I know the old school guys are going to get upset. We don't need to do the big 3 lifts anymore. We have so many better options, safer options that actually put mechanical tension where it's supposed to be, options that reduce injury risk, options that reduce central nervous system fatigue, all of these other things. So I would carefully consider your exercise choices. I don't do any rows that aren't braced. I don't do any leg exercises where my back's not braced. I don't do any heavy deadlifts. I'm really careful with things that are going to put a lot of abdominal pressure. And I'm trying to be a little more intelligent with my training. For coaching or consultations, head over to www.anabolicbodybuilding.com to book your spot today. I can help you with optimizing hormones, fat loss, muscle gain, physique, athletic performance, nutrition, and health. For more information, shoot me an email at bigp3rd@gmail.com.